Hello, all my JavaScript friends. This is TheVirtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and this is our factory game. And this is going to be our first video of the game. This is the first one I'm going to be doing after I did the 3 weeks worth of refactoring on it. So I kind of want to give you an idea of how the general structure of the game has been built. Now, if you followed along with our Snake game, which was our last game at the end of last year, you will notice a lot of similarities here because I kind of liked what we did on the Snake game. And so I've adopted a lot of the things that we've done with that for this particular factory game. So if you want some ideas of what's going on there, you can always go to the Snake game videos, or what you could do is just clone over the repo that I have. The link is in the description. That's completely free. All the code I write for that repo is completely free of charge. You can do whatever you want to with it. It's fine with me. Doesn't bother me at all. But in this particular case for the factory game, let me just kind of give you an idea of what's going on here. Now, I've structured everything where everything you see on the screen is basically going to be a class. So the idea here is, yes, press escape to exit the full screen. I don't want to do that. So the idea here is that the screen is split up into different sections, and each of those different sections has its own class to be able to display what needs to be on the screen. And then each of the individual pieces has their own class. For example, as you see on the left here, we got a lot of information, cursor position, cache level, inventory, and things like that. That is all controlled by the what we call the stats class. And I'm not going to detail what these classes are now. I will go into detail what they are a little bit later on with the subsequent videos, but anything you want to do with the stats, whether you want to update the cursor position, as you can see, it's updating as I move my mouse along the middle part here or along the playground. The cursor position is moving, so there is a class that communicates with the cursor position, and that I will show you today. Cache, level, inventory, everything like that. The inventory gets updated from the store, which is what's located on the right-hand side. And so the store class will allow us to be able to say what is available within our inventory that we can purchase. And right now, these are you can see all the different pieces that we have. So once I would click on, let's say, the extractor here, if I want to purchase an extractor, I can click on the 100. That will do a couple of things. Is that will communicate with the game itself, and then the game will do whatever update it has to do and send that over to the stats. And so now the cache, which was 1,000, is now down to 900, and now I have an inventory in there of an extractor. Or if I want to go back to the right hand side and click on conveyor a couple of times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let's just click on a few more while we're here. We go back over to the stats. My cache has gone down now to 820, and plus now you see my inventory has allowed me to be able to, it tells me exactly what's inside the inventory. And the stats also gives me the ability to click on one of these particular icons here and then being able to go over, and let's just zoom in so we can see it a little bit better here, to go over to the playground area and place the pieces that I have on the screen. And nothing's going to happen at this particular point in time. But you can see, I can just do fun stuff like that. So that's basically what the stats does for me, is that it keeps that inventory and keeps all the stats for the game on the screen. And also on the right-hand side, that's what the store does. In the middle is the world. And the world is going to be the largest of the classes because it controls everything that happens within this section right here. This is where everything works, where everything works with Phaser.js, and everything happens that you see visually up on the screen. So, for example, let me purchase another extractor and a couple more conveyor belts. If I click on this extractor on the left-hand side and move it over a red dot, which all these different dots here represents ore deposits for all the different elements. You have the red element, the blue element, the green element, yellow element, black element, and there will actually be names associated with these once I finish up the screen here. And we'll get into that here in just a quick second. Once I click on that and put it over there, you'll see that the ore has now started coming out of the conveyor, or out of the extractor into the conveyor belt itself. And don't worry about the little skipping. I know what to fix for that one. I just gotta be awake enough to be able to fix it. So the world class controls everything within the middle, and this is going to be the largest one. That may take about 2 videos to explain exactly what's going on, how everything interfaces, how you place information, or how you place different pieces onto the screen. And also I can click on any part of the screen and it will eventually on the stats side give me information. It doesn't right now, but eventually it will. And then from here I can also delete things, so I can hit the delete key and delete that conveyor belt. I can delete that extractor, and so on and so forth, and whatever. And yes, you can delete something right smack dab in the middle, and that will make all of the ores completely disappear, because if the ore doesn't have a conveyor belt to go on, it disappears automatically. But that's what the world does. Now, all the other classes that are defined helps control all the different items that we have in our system. And we have basically 4 classes that are defined within our system. These are the conveyor class that gives us the 6 different conveyor belts. The extractor class will give us the 5 different extractors. The purifier class will give us 5 different purifiers, and the combinator class will give us 6 different alloys. And each one of these can be represented, by the different colors. So this purifier right here, the one with the black dot in it, can only accept the black dotted ores, which I think is Zenith, if I recall correctly. Same thing with the red, same thing with the blue. And again, like I said, I'll have names here in case for those of us like my father was, who was colorblind. I can't just use colors here. I will put actual names so you can figure out what's going on. And the combinators will allow me to be able to say, I want to take, in this case, the very first one down here, I want to take a red and a blue one and combine those two. I want to take another red and green and combine those two into another alloy. And you can have up to, I think it's 6, no, it's actually up to 7 different alloys within the system here by combining different ores together. And that allows you to basically, once they get to the distribution center, which is located right here, that's where you make your money. Once the ore gets to the distribution center, it will boom, sell it, and you make your money. And the ores will bring in less money. Even more pure ores will give you better money, and then the alloys can give you even better money. Of course, they'll be more expensive too. I haven't got quite all that logic done yet. I just wanted to show you the classes. Now, what I want to show you here real quick before we leave this one is I just want to show you how it looks on the code itself. So let's flip over to our code. There we go. And within the code itself, basically the idea here is that we have the game. And the game is, if you're familiar with Phaser.js, the game is a scene. And then, so that basically gives us, it has, I can't talk, it has the preload section here, the create section, and the update section, which is what all scenes do. And this is what's going to be the main controller. And everything communicates through the game. So the game's going to be responsible for creating all the different classes to be able to access all the different pieces, the stats, the ground, the world, the store, the minerals, the distribution center, the conveyor belts, the combinators, extractors, purifiers, the alloys, transporters, all that kind of fun stuff. And I'll get into each one of these classes in other videos. This also controls the different events. Now, if you're, again, like I said, if you were following us on our snake game, I try to keep that game as completely event-driven as possible. So any sub or any class that has been created by the game, like let's say the what's a good one, the extractor class, for example, it will send an event up to the game that something has occurred, and it will then take a look at what has happened. For instance, if the cursor position has changed, or if we've added an inventory, if the cache has changed. Each one of these events are being sent from classes, any one of these classes that have been defined within or been created within the game, and then you'll be able to do different things to different whatevers. For instance, if we're changing the cache, we want to run the update cache and to set the cache, active inventory, move active inventory, update inventory, create a mineral, create an ore image, add it to the transporter. And again, I'll get into all the different classes. And so that's the primary purpose of the game, is to be the main, first of all, to be the scene, the Phaser.js scene, but also to be able to be the main conduit from which all the different classes can be able to communicate and tell what's happening with that particular class. So then it can know what kind of action needs to be taken. And one other thing before we finish up here is how the classes are going to be fixed up. For instance, I'm going to take a look at the minerals just to kind of show you what's going on here. Within the minerals, you'll notice there's generally going to be 3 files within a lot of these different classes, and there will be some exceptions, but basically they're going to have the .cy class, which is our unit test. And here's all the unit tests that I have for the minerals. There's not a whole lot there because it's not a very large class. But it's going to have the JavaScript class itself, and it's going to have a UI class. And the idea here is that the JavaScript class is going to basically define all the important pieces of information that we have for any kind of minerals. It's especially going to have what the types of minerals are. So I have all the different types of minerals located right here, and then ways to be able to get both the descriptions, the names, whether it's a correct whether it's a correct symbol or not if you're doing some work on it, what the symbols are, pure price and everything like that. There is, in this particular case here, I'm defining different textures and things like that, but that's not important. The idea here is that I have a base JavaScript class, but its entire purpose in life is just to be, for lack of a better term, the business logic. It doesn't do any kind of UI. Now, it may store UI stuff, but it doesn't do any kind of UI. That's going to be the responsibility of the mineral UI class. And the idea of the mineral UI class is to be able to control all the different UI aspects of whatever I need to do with the mineral. So in this particular case, if I needed to create an OR image, and that was that OR, if you remember on the screen, the OR was coming out of the extractor. That's what this OR image is all about. Here's the preload section that has to be called for the scene to be able to load up all the different images I have for the ORs. And I've got 3 different images for the minerals. That's it, ORs. I have the OR itself. I have the pure in there, and I have the little dot that you see up on the screen. Let me just flip over to the screen real quick again. Like the red dot and the green dot and the purple dot, that's what the texture is all about. The show is where the deposits are for those screens. So if we go back now to our code, each and every single one of these classes, for the most part, there are some exceptions, will always have some sort of unit test. We'll have a main business logic, and we'll have a UI logic that will allow to do all the UI. For instance, the world one, which is giant size, does a lot of work for the world that you see on the screen here. And that's going to be this middle part that you see on the screen here, the ground, the how everything is, how you interact with the world itself. That's what the world is going to be about. So it's huge. It's got a lot there. And again, I will go over all of this once we get to the actual video itself. But one other thing, and the last thing I want to show you is, let's flip back over to mineral. Each one of these classes, the mineral, the conveyor, the distribution center, the extractor, the purifier, so on and so forth, extends a base class. And this base class is very important because I noticed as I was designing here, all these different pieces of information, all these different conveyors, extractors, purifiers, combinators, all of that, always had a certain stock number of pieces of property, and when you have that, you can always extract it from a base. So this base is the business logic or the core, the business logic for all the core data that we want to save for each of these different individual items, extractors, purifiers, combinators, and so on and so forth. They always have an ID. Type is this little section right here. This allows me to define the different types, and each one of them has their own type, so everything is as unique as it possibly can be. Position is what the grid position on the screen, and that's going to be, we flip over back to the screen, that's going to be what that cursor position in the left-hand corner is all about. As you see, it changes. The cursor position, for example, for this extractor that I'm over right now is column 14, row 9. So that's what the position is. Level allows me to be able to define what level this particular piece is. You can't, one of the parts of this game I wanted to have eventually is to be able to upgrade the level of your conveyor belts or your extractors to be able to get more money out of the ores or whatever you happen to use for them. Orientation and direction vector, you can actually rotate each one of these particular extractors or conveyor belts. So you may have seen that. Let me go back to the full screen here. Let me grab I'll just grab one of these T intersections here. Let's zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. As I hit the R key, you notice that it rotates around. So the orientation there gives me that R key, or gives me that what the rotation of the piece was. Direction vector allows me to be able to say, you know, what is the direction of any kind of ors or movement on it. I have discovered as I was doing my refactoring here over the last 3 weeks that I need really a starting direction vector and an ending direction vector. So this will eventually probably become starting and ending direction vectors. And I've started doing that on the conveyor belts. You can see it right here. I've got a start direction vector and an end direction vector. And it works very well on the conveyor belts. And then active or inactive is extremely important. It basically means that is the particular device or a particular item active or is it inactive? For example, if an extractor is active, it is actually producing ore. If it's inactive, it's not. For instance, if you put an extractor for a red piece of ore on a purple or on a blank ground, it's not going to produce anything, so it is considered inactive at that point. So each and every single one of these classes always consumes or always extends the base class, and that allows us to have all of this different information like set position, set orientation, set direction vector, all of that. It allows us to be able to consolidate all of the duplication, for lack of a better term, that you'll get with all of these particular classes. But that generally is it for the very first video here. I've shown you how the classes are generally organized. And so what we'll start on is, I kind of gave you the base class already here. So we'll probably start at the very upper right-hand corner and we'll probably start with the extractors first, since that's the first thing that I've got pretty much working right now on the screen. So we'll start with the extractors next week. And so thank you very much for listening to the video, and we will see you later. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel to view more videos. Click on the like button on this video and visit us at TheVirtuoid.com. Also, support us on Patreon, where you can get access to member-only videos. Links are down below. Again, thank you very much for watching, and keep on coding.